Hello, everybody. It is Larry the GM. Okay, we got some sound issues. Where's our sound coming from, Clint? That's not good. All right, well, hopefully it'll be better. All right, maybe if I just don't yell. Folks, welcome to. Oh, if you've got YouTube open, make sure you're on silent.
Yep, it's muted.
Okay.
Not sure where it's coming from, Larry, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we would hope that we would have caught that in the pre-show. Now it's live, and we are okay. I'm not sure what we can do about it. We got 10 people. Let's go, Clint. We'll just go with it, whatever it is. So, folks, welcome to Larry the GM. We are ready for opening day. 'Twas the night before opening day, and all through the land, MLB fans were brimming with confidence, even in Oakland? Question mark. Let's see where it takes us tonight. Okay, what Clint, my buddy Clint the Scout. Clint, go ahead and introduce yourself. You've been written articles in the past for the website. Tell everybody how we connect and where your skills are at.
Yeah, guys. My biggest thing is I'm a little bit more low key in terms of what I put out and where I kind of chime in. I talk to Larry usually daily, if not every other day. Maybe in the off season it's a little bit more sporadic, but daily during the season when we're watching these games and kind of looking at not just the major league team, but the prospects and what we see. And a lot of my expertise just comes from I've played the game. I played the game for a very long time. From a little kid up until and even into college for a little bit. But it's just a huge passion of mine, and I like to let Larry know if I see something that's odd, or sometimes I point out some really cool things, and sometimes I'm wrong. But that's part of the that's part of the trials and tribulations of baseball. But you can find me on Twitter at I have to remember what the I don't keep up with my own handle, guys, so I apologize. But it's just Clinton_117, and you'll see me sharing a lot of Larry's content, and I'm always reading it, keeping up with it, watching the Astros, and every now and then I'll chime in with something that stands out to me, and I'm always willing to have a dialogue with anybody who wants to who may want to know what I'm thinking. And then obviously let me know as well, because Larry's got great stuff to share and highlight some of the things that we see. And if there's ever anything you're not understanding or kind of questioning why certain things happen, there's a very good reason to there's very good reason to believe that Larry and I will know, and more so Larry than me sometimes, all the time, most of the time. It just there's just value in what comes out on LarryTheGM.com, and I think it makes you it makes baseball a lot more interesting, a lot more fun. So always make sure to follow, subscribe, even pay in for the subscription. I think it's only $5 a month to get access to data on a daily basis, and it's valuable, and you might you might enjoy watching these games a lot more and being able to apply that to what you see day in and day out with these guys. So
Thanks a lot, Clint. So, guys, we are so it's the off season's always, it's kind of like a marathon, and then at the very end there's a bunch of moves, and I've been trying to balance putting out content early and then have it be dated with moves. Like even today, I mean, I've put out a ton of content in the last 48 hours, and some of it I'm gonna already got to go back and refix because teams have made some moves. Not too surprising, but what I would love for folks to understand, like I'm very passionate about the game of baseball. Come at it from an engineer standpoint, and we're going to take you tonight on a journey That's probably going to be a little different than most baseball preseason shows. Right, we're going to be very data intensive. We're gonna look at some numbers, and we're going to really talk through where we think the season's going. Clint, can you make a comment on YouTube just to make sure that I'm seeing it, because I'm not seeing any chats, or if anybody's on the YouTube side that wants to make a chat, please let me know. So I know we got quite a few folks with us. So let's get into it. So I guess the way where we're going to start tonight is at the article that I just put out 48 minutes ago. Really, it's going to be an outline of what we're going to talk about tonight, and then we're going to take you down the journey of several of the things that have been come out in the last couple of weeks or last couple of days, and then we'll talk about more about the season ahead. So let's talk about opening day predictions, folks. Chat is with us. Okay, there you go. Clint's got the chat. So you guys, please chat with us. We're gonna get into these one-page summaries, but I think the first thing I want to do is take you guys into looking at the different awards um, for these teams, and we talk a lot about WAR here because when I've done my season predictions, I always go back to the relative wars of these teams, and I've built um, season predictions all the way back to I guess probably 2017 was the first time I really got serious about doing that. I've been an Astros fan for decades. I'm an old man, but uh, when we're really digging into the data side of this, putting out some season predictions, and those predictions, I was predicting 101 wins for the 2019 season. So I mean, these numbers tend to be a little bit centering or not lead to those kind of results, but last year the my model said the Astros were going to win 90 games, and I said they were going to win 92 because I didn't want to believe my own model, right? And so now that made me an anomaly among Astros fan base, right? Because they go, oh no, they're going to win 100 games. Well, this team's great, Larry. What are you talking about? We just won the World Series. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the similar data that we looked at last year at this time and then build out predictions based on that. So the good news is the Astros are and one of the most important things when you look at this WAR data is the relative WAR, not necessarily the exact number, right? Because these numbers won't be right because the prediction algorithms will never they won't account for the spread that normally actually happens in a season. But the relativeness is what's really important here. And the good news for us Astros fans is the Astros currently have the highest WAR prediction for all teams in the American League. And so if you're feeling kind of down as an Astros fan, maybe you're at the right spot tonight because we're going to be pretty positive. We're going to be honest about the challenges the Astros have, but overall, this team is really set up to be good. And just spend some time with this data, and you're going to see the real reason for that is the hitting. The hitting on the Astros team is third highest in the major leagues, and right in line with the Yankees and slightly just barely ahead of the Dodgers, right? So really, there's four teams in Major League Baseball that the WAR said are going to be kind of separate. And really, honestly, the WAR says you've got the Braves, you've got the Dodgers, and you got the Yankees and the Astros right together in a war for the American League. Now, I will say when we get into some of this data, Clint, if I don't pause to catch it, make me pause when we hit the Dodgers pitching staff because there's a lot of issues they have there. But you can see the teams and the relative strengths. You can hit the Astros are the third hitting team and the seventh pitching team, and I think that really hits closely to what they're at. So Clint, this is the league. We don't need to go through everybody here, but that summarizes. Any thoughts do you have to the numbers and what they're saying? Let me just this column right here is a predicted wins by the WAR. And you can see the Astros at 89.5. Go ahead, Clint.
Yeah. My biggest thing is I always love to toot the horn for the Astros, but year over year, these guys have turned over rosters and worked through losing guys and everything, but they are just consistently at the top of the league every year. And it's not done in the fashion of other teams. I mean, you look at it can be very top heavy at times, but I think it's a testament to what has happened these past 7 and what's going to be. I believe is going to be a really great year in 2024. In 8 years, with just the amount of success and just the ability for this organization to continue to push out um, solid, great baseball teams. And in light of that, I think the most interesting thing to me is you wouldn't expect the defending champions to be that low from a WAR perspective, coming off the year they had, because they didn't really lose much. I mean, I know they lost Jordan Montgomery, but you would think that they would have found ways to work around that. But I think that also just speaks to what we will probably really see from them and see in the AL West in the season this year. But I think, you know, there's going to be a lot of things that jump out to us that we're going to be really glad that there was some turnover in some positions, and we're going to be glad that we said goodbye to a few people, because it's going to open our eyes to what we really can tap into now with younger guys and I'd say younger veterans. I'm going to say it that way: younger veterans in the right spots, and then allowing our younger talent to really speak through. And I think that's going to feed into some of the stuff we'll talk about later with our choices and predictions. Because I do have one that I'm really excited about, and I'm really hoping it's going to be a great season, because Forrest Whitley has let me down too many times.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's my
So
biggest thing. I think the other thing, sorry, Larry, not to cut you off, but I think the other thing is just when you weigh where the AL West is going to lie in the season, I think it just bodes well for the Astros to have a really good chance to make the postseason and be in more control of their destiny this year compared to last year, for sure.
yeah, so let's dig into the American League for a little bit. So what's interesting about this WAR ranking, or the projected win total, to embedded into these numbers, it actually would say that the Rays are slightly ahead of the Rangers for the last wild card spot. So basically, the major league champion Rangers are not predicted to make the postseason purely based on the amount of WAR that they have. Okay, now the Rangers are a little bit like the Astros. Part of the reason that the Rangers are that low is because of their pitching side, and part of the reason the pitching is so bad, or ranks so bad in the WAR rating, is because they're so injured, right? Well, similar, we'll see that when we get into some of the deeper tables. The Astros have the same dynamic, and I think both the Rangers. Clint, remember when we hit the postseason last year and we said, if we or we were in September and said, let's please keep the Mariners out of the postseason. I think there's
Mhm.
going to be a little bit of that dynamic. Is like, if you can keep the Rangers out of the postseason, because if they've got DeGrom back and they got Scherzer back, that's almost like a completely different Rangers team.
Yeah.
Um, and I think there's a little bit of that element with the Astros too. If you can get a healthy Luis Garcia and a healthy Lance McCullers Jr. pitching for the Astros in September, that it's a much better team, and we'll see some of that as we get through there. But that's an interesting dynamic, and also on the National League side, really the National League side, the short message here is the Braves and the Dodgers are dominant, and then you got the Phillies, and then it's basically a bunch of teams that will be fighting for to be over 500, and the Diamondbacks actually get edged out in the postseason if you believe the WAR numbers. Now these differences aren't large enough. I'm not saying that the Rangers are not going to make the postseason, but and this one thing we talked about the other day on Twitter Space. I am way more confident about the Astros in the American League West this year than I was last year. And that's because if you embed in these numbers, the Mariners are sitting here at an 85 prediction versus 89.5 for the Astros. So that's a 4.5 game lead. I, I'm I'm feeling I'm even feeling it better than that, mainly because I think you look at the Mariners here. If you look at the teams in the American League, notice that the Astros are probably one of the most balanced of the teams that are at the top. Okay, they're the seventh rated pitching staff from a WAR standpoint, but the
Yeah.
Yankees are the 17th. right? And the Blue Jays are the seventh hitting team with the sixth rated pitching staff. So it's just like everybody in the American League has some flaws, and so we should maybe give the Rangers, give the Astros a little bit of grace with our flaws that we know about. All right, so when we come back to this spreadsheet or to this article, we're gonna be closing out the show with our predictions, folks. Please join us in the chat and provide your predictions. I'd love to get them documented. Or you can go to the Patreon site for the Patreon members, put in your predictions there, or you can put them in the comments on the website, guys, for the at the bottom of this article. So love to see it. All right, so I don't want to show my predictions till we get there. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go through the one pagers. It's going to be a little bit of like, hey, how do you put out these one pagers, Larry? What am I supposed to do with them? I'm gonna talk you through those, and then maybe there'll be some data that we see. So let's talk about the American League batting one pager. All right, so in that one pager, you get a little bit of advertisement for the site. So the first spreadsheet on the one pager here is the position group. So you see the American League West at the top here. You get the Astros position, the position by position, and you see for all the other teams in the West. You can see the relative Laird to GM grades. I won't get into my grading scale, but it's embedded in several articles in the offseason. Basically, the better the WRC plus, the better the grade. You can see Kyle Tucker and Jordan Alvarez are A plus players, if you were wondering. We got Alex Bregman an A and Jose Altuve A minus. That's with the way those grades come out on the scale. You can see relative to the other teams of the division how strong the Astros are. You can also see something different from the Astros than we've had in years past, Clint, and that's there is no D level player projected to be starting for the Astros or even on the bench for the Astros unless Greg Kessinger comes in and is really a defense only player. But the team as it's hitting opening day, the lowest rated player on the Astros opening day roster is Maurice Dubon at a C minus player with a WRC plus of 91. Guys, it's been a long time that we've been able to say the Astros' weakest link from a batting standpoint is 91 WRC plus, but that's where we're at. Now, okay, Victor Carantine's 90, but because he's a catcher, that's actually a C plus level catcher. I'm sorry, it's 90. But that's really good. And you can compare that to some of the other teams in the division. You see they've got starters that are in the 80s and 70s and stuff that we've had to deal with before. So there's the American League West from a division from the position standpoint. Now, I would say the positional page is really for your information to understand. Yeah, Leon, there's no Maldi.
Yeah.
And Liz, that is and there's evidence of why we want no Maldi. Okay. But I would say the positional lineup page really is to help you guys understand who's playing what position for every team in Major League Baseball, where they're predicted to play. Okay, let's go down to the batting order because that's probably the other part that's really more fascinating. And Clint, I'm sorry, I'm filibustering. Did you want to say something about the position page before I go on?
No, my biggest thing with them is just um I it's pretty much what we've come to know about these guys for the past 3 or 4 years. We're gonna be, we're gonna be expecting great things from Jordan and Tucker and everybody, but I think it's just a testament to what this organization continues to do with guys over and over again. And I really think that we're going to see what we're finally going to be able to see the benefits of having these two catchers in very positive positions with obviously a lot more upside than what we've had over the past few years. We're going to finally see what that really means to the lineup. But I said it last year when these guys were in the postseason, the offense is going to be what really drives this team and really puts them over the top to make runs deep in the postseason. And we were unfortunate it didn't work out that way last year, but um, we also have a new manager and we have certain things in place that are going to give us more more options and make it more available to put those runs up.
Yeah, so let's talk about this offense. I want people to. I just want to like take you on a mind journey. Okay, the Astros lineup starts with Jose Altuve with a WRC plus of 126. He was actually like 153 or something like that last year. He had a great year last year. Okay, but this is what these are the projected stats. And I know people want to get in it. I'm not going to have this argument with people about the projected stats. All right, I'm going to do this work based on what the projected stats say because last year at this time, people were ready to dump Dubon because they were projecting he was terrible, and the projected stats said he was going to have the kind of year he had. Okay, so that's kind of where I'm going to stick my heels in the ground on that one. So, but look at this lineup, guys. 1 through 4, all great hitters. We all know that. But imagine a world where Jose Abreu actually is some semblance of who Jose Abreu has really been for his career, even at his advanced age. If he's a 108 WRC plus player, followed up with Yonder Diaz at catcher with a 110 WRC plus, and Chas McCormick at a 110. That's a down year compared to last year for Chas McCormick. If you that's 7 deep in the lineup with all great hitters. If we can get that season from Jose Abreu, this offense is going to be a complete juggernaut because what's also not going to happen at the bottom of this lineup is you got Jeremy Pena basically being a little bit better than he was last year and right there at 96 that's really good for your number 8 hitter. And your number 9 hitter, and I've been saying it all off season, it feels like it's deja vu with me this year compared to last year. Last year it was Dubon. This year it's been Jake Myers. Several different articles on the website saying, guys, I think we're being too harsh on Jake Myers. Every one of the, I mean, Jake Myers, is he 27 or 28, Clint? I don't remember. He's basically at his athletic prime. Look that up for us while we're going. But Jake Myers, 93 W. If you get 93 WRC plus production on Jake Myers and a 9-0, that is insanely good. And
Jake
so,
Moore,
guys,
27. Sorry, Larry.
27. Yeah, so he's at his peak. And so, guys, Jake Myers, if that position in the lineup was 65 last year, guys. If it's 93 this year, that's going to be amazing. And it doesn't matter. I mean, if the manager wants to have any of the bench players in there, look at these projections for everybody on the bench. He can't make a mistake putting one of the bench players in because they're all going to be serviceable MLB players. That's the strength of the Astros. I actually think the lineup may be better than what it shows up on this page. So there you go. 117 WRC plus, A- scale on the Larry the GM team scale. That's an incredible production. And you can see the rest of the teams. The rest of the teams in the division are pretty good, except obviously for the Athletics. And I mean, they're not bad. I mean, the Rangers here with the sixth best offense, the Mariners with the 11th best offense, the Angels taking a step back without Ohtani. But you know, it's interesting to see some of the differences between the WARs projected and the WRC pluses projected. But that's the AL West. Clint, jump in.
No, I was just gonna say, I lost my train of thought there for a second, but yeah, I personally believe I think the Rangers may underperform that ranking. That's just my bias. I think there was a lot more going for them last year than there will be going into this season. Um, and then guys, I just cannot stress enough how different this lineup looks and how reminiscent it is of a 2017 team,
That's a
and what
really
they
good
had.
point.
It was very, you know, one of the things that I've really enjoyed about this offseason, and I think it's one of the off seasons in a while, is how under the radar the Astros have really kind of flown. They made signings, they did what they had to do, but really at the end of the day, it's like this team it's been pretty quiet around them for the most part. So that I feel like is really good for them and for us in the long run. But that 2017 was kind of, out of not. I don't think we were as surprised as we were, but we were not expecting what we got at the same
Right.
time. And this really has that same feel.
So let's look at the AL Central for real quick, and one of the things I want everybody to kind of see real quickly. This section right here is the significant injuries that each one of the teams has. Notice that every team has a couple, not every team, but some teams have no significant injuries, but not too many teams have more than two. The Rays have 4, and the Yankees have 3 position player injuries before the season starts. And the reason I bring that up is I want to compare that to what we're going to see with the pitchers, okay? And just the mash unit the pitchers already are. And so maybe feel a little bit about our pitching injuries when we see where the rest of the league's at. So the AL Central really a kind of a very competitive situation. What's interesting here is the projected wins from the Tigers, and where the Vegas odds are. Oh, I didn't mention that, guys. I'm giving you on the bottom line of this is Richie where the Vegas odds are. Now the money makers already knew this, and the money makers already got a couple of predictions from old Larry the GM of where they could be putting their money, and it pays to be a money maker. Is all I'm going to say. They got some really good odds they could have jumped on early on. So the money makers had some early. They got some early Larry the GM heads up on where to put some action if they if they were feeling frisky. So one of the things in the American League Central, you see that the White Sox are just the White Sox. And not to pick on there's notice that there's only one start
for that name, Larry.
there's only one starter on this whole page that has a purple grade of an F. It's right there on the White Sox. Okay, just a reminder of what it was
And
like.
guys, I just want to say just maybe a little tidbit out of right field, is this is also a good chart to start looking at. Obviously every trade deadline we're wondering where the Astros going to improve, any trades they're going to make. This is going to give you a pretty good idea of where they're going to be looking. So when you see a lot of red surrounded by blue and purple, those are guys that start looking at the contracts, like what they're set up to be, and what that team is really looking to do, and that can kind of give you an idea of where these contenders are really going to be looking to, I say, pillage the village,
Right.
but to go out and seek talent to make their rosters better. So this is also a little bit of way to start getting out in front of that, and good conversation piece with your friends as well, to just let them know, like, hey, I kind of saw this coming. Why? Well, you followed LarryTheGM.com. That's why.
Right, and this is where you go back to the position lineup. Like I'm looking for a left fielder, right? Well, who's got a left fielder? Maybe I'm theoretically, okay. If I want a left fielder and the Tigers, is Mark Canna available from the Tigers if they aren't doing what they wanted to do? Is he overperforming, underperforming where that projection said he was going to be? I mean, that's just an example. I'm not saying the Astros are going to get a left fielder, guys. Not saying that. But I'm just trying to build an example where you can put these two together. All right. Let's look at the American League. The American League East is going to be a war. The worst team in the American League East, the worst team is the Red Sox projected, and they project out to be 79.7, so basically 80-win team. And that's really similar to what the American League East was like last year, guys. And you got the Yankees here at 89 wins, you got the Blue Jays at 86, you got the Rays at 85, and you got the Orioles at 84. Personally, I think the Orioles are going to do better than that. I think the Vegas odds, at 90 are
That
kind
jumped
of
out to me
showing that.
too. Is where they're
Yeah,
how
but
low they were. Yeah.
look at all these battings are 116, 108, 109, 110, 105. There's not a bad hitting team in the American League East.
Yeah.
But there are some pitching challenges a lot. We'll get to that. But this is look at all the Reds. And one of the things, I just want you to just don't focus too much on the numbers for just a minute. Just take in the color. Okay, this is one of the reasons I do the color code. Take in the colors of these batting orders and notice how much red is in the Astros and how little of anything else, right? And we've got two players barely a shade of blue, barely below average. And you got two players, C level players, and you've got 7B or better level players and four A's. The Twins don't have a single A, right? And
Mhm.
the Yankees, the other great offense, they're dependent on their two A+ players, right? And they're surrounding that with a lot more blue, a lot more C and B level players. So it's interesting to see how that plays out. And that's why I'm saying I think there's an element to this that the models may be underselling where the Astros actually come together, and because there is no automatic out in the lineup, and there's no pitching around to get to the automatic out at the end of the lineup. So I think we're going to see a really, really strong Astros offense. I guess I'll leave it there. That's the American League. Comments on that, guys? If anybody on the video, on the YouTube side, if you want to comment, please jump in. But that's where I see the American League, on the pitching side, on the batting side. Let's go. Let's go to the National League batting. So click on that link. Takes you to the National League page. National League batting. All right, so here we go. We're going to go work from the west to east. I did that intentionally because all of these things usually end up east to west. So I wanted to go west to east. So, and part of the thing here is that the Dodgers are really, really strong, guys. And what I think is most interesting for the Dodgers is going to be the injuries, and we'll talk about that. Notice there's no real significant position player injuries as of when I published this. But you can see their lineup. They have three A+ players, right? This is what and out on the press right now, everybody is in love with the Dodgers offense, right? Okay, they've got four A level players, a few Bs, and then they got two Cs. Like their offense doesn't have anybody in the 90s as far as a predicted WRC+ player. But their bench, I would argue, their bench is not as strong as the Astros bench as of right now. So how does that play out? How do injuries impact them? I don't know, but that is a great, great offense. Predict WRC+ of 116, right? These are really high projected numbers for WRC+. So the Dodgers project to be the 93 win team, but the Vegas odds are 104 and a half. Guys, that number is really high. And if they have a couple injuries, you might have wanted to wish you'd gone to Vegas and put some money on the Dodgers under 104 and a half. I think that number's that's being bumped up because all the people in LA betting on the Dodgers. But there's the division. I guess the other side of this, the poor Rockies. Here, pray for Rockies fans. They play in a baseball, like a hitter's ballpark, and yet the projections say they're an 87 WRC+ team. Oh man, it's going to be a miserable year for Rockies fans. So, and here you got and in the middle, you got the Padres and the Diamondbacks. Looking at pretty good teams. The Giants, not a bad offense, but none of those are really great offenses, right? So I think the Dodgers are going to be kind of rolling over their division. So that's an argument for the 104 wins. The NL Central. So shockingly, the Cardinals are back on top, which I thought was interesting as far as a projected win total, but it's a really tight race. Here you got the Pirates projected wins at 76, in Vegas 73.4. That's not a bad year. It's not a great year, obviously, but they got the Cardinals at 83 with a Vegas odds of 85 and a half. You can see how these are in line, but basically a really tight race for division title between the Cardinals, Cubs, and Brewers. And you can see these offenses. I guess I'm on the position page, but you can see where the offenses are and how really balanced the Cardinals are. Really, no bad player, no bad hitter except Mason Wynn as far as hitting goes, and a pretty good bench too. So, these are I guess they got three good decent batters on the bench. So there you go. There's the American League Central. And the American League East, guys, I just want everybody to be comfortable. Like, enjoy the Braves. Enjoy the Braves for who they are. Okay. And because we're not going to have to worry about them until we get to the World Series. That's the good news. If we get to the World Series, we have to worry about the Braves. Well, then we'll worry about the Braves when we get to the World Series. But that offense is really, really good. Basically, really similar to the Astros offense. Really good position players. I'm going to go down to the batting order. You can see it. Look at how deep the Reds are, all the way down to 7 in the order, and then you got two players in 90 mid upper 90s on the bottom of the order. Two A plus players like the Astros, two A players like the Astros, and some B players. Basically, really, really similar structure offensively to the Astros with that offense. So it's a really, really great team offensively. It's going to be a really great team pitching wise too. So I I'm not you won't get Larry DeGM throwing any shade at the Braves this year. I'm just going to enjoy watching them go to town. And I think the good news for us is Dana Brown came from the organization that built that team, and has been part of the culture that built that team is before he came to the Astros. So I think he's learned some things, and I think we're seeing him implement those. But you've got some superstars and some really good players there, and you can see how it's all playing out for them. So that's the National League. I mean, you've got the Mets and the Phillies with some decent offenses and pretty good win totals also. So Clint, I rambled through the entire National League. Tell me your thoughts on National League.
I, I'm not a usually I focus on the Astros mainly, but I would agree that what the Braves have done with the talent that they have, and then obviously with some of the extensions and being able to get some of these guys on the roster for extended period of time is it's going to be fun to watch. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be a truly like reincarnated 90s Braves. I don't know if that's as sustainable in this day and age as it was
Right.
then. But baseball fan in general, you just have to really appreciate great baseball when you see it, and that's my big thing. And then one of my big things, and one of like I said with the Dodgers, they're an injury or so away from being a completely different team. And I know we're going to talk about it when we get in the pitching section, but it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows for them. And I think that's more or less on the other side of it when they're having to pitch and
Right.
play defense compared to what they're going to be doing offensively. Um, I, I think what we're really getting used to, and I think it's kind of the shape of baseball right now, but it's like, oh great, like the NL is going to be is the NL based on just the graphics alone is like it's a two maybe three horse race, and it's about who can be healthy when it matters.
Yeah,
And then
that's exactly
you know
right.
and then my big thing is if that's the case, let them beat each other up, and we'll deal with
Yeah.
them as it comes. Because we may see a few of them, we may see them during the regular season, but like we've always believed, and we'll talk about it later. It's like you got to be great when it matters, and that's what will really separate them from other teams. As we go through the season.
Yeah, all right. So you asked a question, and I asked the same thing. And I didn't take time to figure it out. Like, when did the Braves get Kalenic? And like, one of those the minor moves that they made, right? And so what's interesting to me, RA, is when I did this table. These are the kinds of things that came out to me. Like, wow, there's things to be interested in as you start seeing the entire league on one page. Like, wow, okay, what how did that happen? So yeah, it's pretty interesting, and let's go to pitching because I think this is going to be really interesting. All right, so number one, I gave you one of the themes I like. The Astros have 7 pitchers. I shouldn't chuckle, but it's a challenge.
It's
The
a real
Astros have
thing.
7 pitchers that are on the significant injuries starting the season, and these are good pitchers. These are projected pitchers that are better than the pitchers that we're going with, right? So, guys, I think the message I have for the Astros fans, like, just hold on, just wait. The offense has to the offense has to carry the Astros, and the good news is, you know, uh, they have, or I think they will. The other interesting thing is the projection models really, and they was similar last year, and I had like some heads up for folks. The projection models don't really favor Christian Javier. C minus level pitcher, 4.63 projected FIP. Man, I hope they're wrong, because we can't have that from Christian Javier. On the other hand, these projection models love Hunter Brown. And I'll just give you a little clue. The premium members are going to understand that why that is tomorrow when I put the tables that I've generated today. Hunter Brown. Well, you're going to hear Hunter Brown out of my mouth before we're done tonight. Let's just say that. Hunter Brown, 3.91, B level pitcher, makes him the second best starting pitcher projected on the Astros, even if the Lance McCullers are back, even if Justin Verlander was in, Hunter Brown would still be the number 2 quality starting pitcher on the Astros per the projections. These are not my numbers. These are my grades assigned on the number scale of the Fangraphs projections. Okay, you can get mad at me for what the numbers say, but that's what the numbers say. And then you've got probably the strength of the pitching staff for the Astros. Basically, straight A minus, and they're basically, and this is again a little bit of function of projected stats, but basically all three of the stud relievers for the Astros, all A minus level pitchers. And yeah, all right, you're doing a great. All right, you're doing exactly the activity I would hope people do with these tables, right? Like, wow, that surprises me. Look at before we get to the Mariners, look at the Rangers pitching, guys. This is why the Rangers are struggling. Now, look down here. This one guy that's A plus, right? And Max Scherzer's a B minus level pitcher. They're rolling out nothing but average Jags as far as the model is saying. Now, you may live in fear of Nathan Eovaldi, but if I told you Nathan Eovaldi's FIP projected is significantly worse than Hunter Brown's, does that change your attitude toward Nathan Eovaldi? I mean, I'm not saying Nathan Eovaldi's bad. That FIP is better than league average, but I'm just saying he's a serviceable pitcher. He'll give the Rangers a lot of innings, but by this projection, he's not an ace. And so I think the Rangers have got some real challenges with their pitching. And the question for me with the relative to the Rangers is how soon will DeGrom and Scherzer be back? And I don't know the answer to that. I saw that the projections have DeGrom pitched starting 5 games. So basically they're saying he comes back in late August, early September. So if that's true, the Rangers are going to be in trouble. But yeah, so the Mariners kind of surprised me too. They've got an absolute stud in their bullpen. They got Ryan Stanek as their setup guy, according to the roster resource tables. And so their bullpen is not as good as the Astros, but their starting pitchers are they're good, but they're not like great. And that's a little bit of function of the tough grading system that the Larry GM scale has, because the Larry GM scale is built for actual stats. And so when you put projected stats in them, it kind of, kind of limit. There's very few A pluses in the Larry GM projection scale, right? If you've seen A plus level pitcher, it's probably Jacob deGrom, and that type of dominant pitcher. So yeah, I mean they got two. The Mariners have really good starting pitcher. They have okay relief core. Actually, a better pitching projected pitching staff, 4.06. The strength of the Mariners is their pitching. And it's going to be fascinating to see these three teams play out in the American League West, guys. You've got the strong hitting, pretty decent pitching of the Astros. You've got the strong hitting, probably below average pitching of the Rangers. Then you've got the okay hitting, really above average pitching of the Mariners. How is that going to play out all year? That's a theme that I would say, guys, if you want to pick up a Larry the GM themes tonight, that's a theme to pick up about the American League West. How is this? How are these gonna work together? I think it's going to be really interesting. And the Angels, man, the Angels. I mean, go back to the Angels article that I wrote. The Angels went all in at the end of last year, and they lost almost all the guys that they traded for, and it's just like they should fire the owner, fire the owner because
Yeah,
you know
the, there's
they've
not
left
going to
themselves
be much.
decimated.
Yeah, there's not going to be much we can say to to quantify or to sum up what's happening in Los
And
Angeles.
then, yeah,
Anaheim.
maybe on both sides. Yeah,
Yeah, Los Angeles, Anaheim.
they rank as the 24th ranked pitching staff. Not good. The Athletics, guys. I didn't dwell on it too much when we went through the hitting side. I wouldn't be. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if the Athletics ended this season basically at the same record as the Angels, because a lot of their young players stepped up. I mean, their pitching staff projects to be atrocious, right? But it's actually projects to be a little bit better than the Angels pitching staff, right? So if a few of those guys step up on the offensive side, there's no dominant pitcher. There's no dominant starter. They've got a really good young reliever, Mason Miller, another decent reliever. But they've got holes all over it. They too have they got 6 pitching injuries. Look at all the pitching injuries. All right, this is the American League West. Look at all the pitching injuries. Every staff has 3 pitching injuries. If there's no projected stats, that means the prediction models don't think that pitcher's pitching all year. Probably because he's had Tommy John late last year and they don't think he's going to be back, or he had something happen in the offseason where he's not going to pitch at all. It's a mash unit as far as the injured list are ready for pitching. Some of these guys are going to go to the 60-day injured list, create openings. It's just crazy. I don't know. I don't know that Trout's going to get traded. Mainly financially. I don't know who would be willing to take on that salary. Maybe the Mets. I don't know. Maybe the Phillies. I mean, I know the Phillies fans would love to have him back there. It's kind of sad seeing Mike Trout being wasted for the Angels, and they weren't able to put anything together with Ohtani and Trout. It's not going to be any better without Ohtani.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. American League Central pitching. You got the Twins with a really good. Look at all the red here, guys. Look at all the above average pitching that the Angels have. An 8, obviously Pablo Lopez, some good relievers. I mean, these aren't. It's not. Maybe it's not covered with a bunch of A's, but that's a really good pitching staff. And if they get Duran back, they could. I don't know how many innings he's predicted, but again, they've got 6 pitchers on the injured list, right? It's crazy. 4.04 FIP. That's pretty good. That's actually really good. And predicted number 4 WAR. So that's a strong pitching team You can see the rest of the division. We talked about the Tigers being maybe interesting on the offensive side, but there's some challenges here on the pitching staff. But they do have some younger pitchers that may step up and surprise. So it's interesting to see what that pitching staff does for the Tigers. The Guardians, again a pretty good team, but again the War's not all that impressive. And again, look at the White Sox, man. The White Sox are going to be in sell mode. I don't know that there's anything worth buying, but you know they're going to be selling. They've got some offensive things that are going to be interesting, but
We'll see
look at that pitching staff.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Clint.
No, I said we'll finally see if they're gonna truly pull the trigger on someone like Luis Robert
Right.
and such, because there's just a lot. There too many needs at the wrong time for some of those guys.
Imagine your starting rotation 3, 4, 5 starters 5.03, 5.03, 5.10 FIPS. That's a lot of painful days at the ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
And you have an F level relief pitcher and a D minus level relief pitcher. I mean, ugh. All right, let's talk about the Yankees. So the Yankees again are another one of the teams. They have 5 pitchers starting on the injured list, including Garrett Cole. Clearly, I think Garrett Cole is their best pitcher. Carlos Rodon, again, another B level pitcher. This is not a horrible pitching team, but from a WAR standpoint, they it gets pretty hammered pretty hard. The FIP is 4.27. That's barely better than the league average. And so you can see the relief staff is probably their strength, similar to the Astros. And they got some the pitching here. I think Nestor Cortez is probably better than this. I can show you why I say that when you guys see the series article tomorrow. You'll see why I think Nestor Cortez might be a little bit better in this grade. But there you go. That's the Rays again, decent pitching staff. The Blue Jays, decent pitching staff. Sixth best WAR ranking. You can see that Kevin Gosman, good pitcher for them.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I mean these pitching staffs. There's no Atlanta Braves pitching staff in the American League. There's a bunch of pretty good pitching staffs. I guess the Twins are the best of the pitching staffs, and I just don't. I don't feel that. I guess when we talk about how bad the Astros pitching is, just understand they're projected to have a 7 WAR, B minus grade, and there's 1 B, 2 Bs, 3 Bs. There's 3 Bs that are basically better than the Astros from the Larry GM scale, and there's one. Okay, you got the 4, 5, and 6, and the Astros would be 7. They're the fourth from the WAR project. Okay, so they're one of the 2 best offenses in the American League, and they're the number 4 best pitching staff. So I know we are all stressed out about the pitching all year. I guess what I say is it's going to correct itself because these guys that are on the injured list, at least a few of them are going to contribute. Okay, and I thoroughly believe that, and that's where I'm at with the Astros pitching. Comments about American League pitching, Clint?
It, it feels like it repeats itself a little bit. I just want to reiterate to folks, and I know you kind of chimed on it with the Astros and the injuries and stuff. If we can get some timing right and get some things to go right with the recovery and stuff like that, you're looking at a very deep pitching staff in the right time of the season. I mean, if you can get some guys back after the trade deadline when they're healthy, think about the relief it gives the guys that are going to carry the load for the first, anywhere from 70 to 80, 100 games. And then and then you're talking about saving some innings and getting those guys right. But who wouldn't want to see, a healthy Luis Garcia and a healthy Lance McCullers step into this team, even if it's in a, you know, bridge
Long relief role, yeah.
bullpen, long relief thing. We have to understand the position that they're in. It You have three of the best relievers in baseball in one bullpen. And you're going to have versatility there. You're going to have the ability to mitigate that. You just need to find a way to get there offensively and through this pitching staff. And I think the Astros are set up to find those things and to get a lot out of these injured guys when it's time. It's just, you know, no, there are no teams that are going to be perfectly injury free. We just have to be able to be less less injured when it matters. And I mean, the Astros do that time and time again. I guess the other thing that stands out to me is I guess I just never realized that. And this is your grading scale, obviously, but we always tout Garrett Cole as one of the top pitchers in the league. But I guess what we're going to probably start to see over the next few years is regression in a lot of different ways. And then there's no telling what he's going to be like from a health perspective when he comes back, if he comes back this season. But it just I think what we're doing is we harp so much and are so critical of where the Astros pitching staff is, but when you really look at it from the big picture and look at all these, all the other 14 American League teams, it's kind of like, okay, it's not nowhere near as bad as we felt it was. But that's also because our standards are pretty high.
Right. Yeah, we're not the 2018 Astros. Okay, that's clear. But no. The good news is I don't think there is one in the American League. So it's an interesting question from RI. Who blows more saves, Kimbrel or Jansen? Well, by this scale, they're both in the same area. Maybe Kimbrel has more games to blow. So
Yeah.
that's probably part of the answer. All right, let's do National League pitching. Uh, the story here is the Dodgers pitching really good, but look at this injuries.
Hmm.
So another 7 pitchers injured. Kershaw, Goslin, Buehler. I know Buehler's going to come back. Goslin's not even predicted to give him anything this year, apparently. I don't know all the details of all these other teams. Dustin May's injured. Gratterall's injured. And look at the quality of the pitching that's injured for the Dodgers. They are number 3 in WAR, 4.10 FIP, a B level pitching staff. That's really good. They got Tyler Guys now. They got Yamamoto. They've got some really good pitching. They've got some good guys in the bullpen. Well, they got some guys in the bullpen. I wouldn't call Joe Kelly a good guy, but I'm an Astros fan, so you expect that from me. But it's a very, very deep staff. It's a good thing, I guess, for them because they got 7 guys injured. I could. Otani could be on this. It's not even on the list because he's just not going to pitch this year. But yeah, it's just crazy how much pitching is decimated for the Dodgers. And then it's like, why did the Dodgers keep signing people all year? Well, they did it because they knew that they had some issues. And so it's really interesting. Now, the Padres, again, a pretty decent pitching staff, number 12 in WAR rank. You got the Giants, number 9 in WAR rank. Actually a better FIP than the Dodgers. And they've done a good job, man. They added Blake Snell, right? And that was the one pitcher the Astros were considering late, but they didn't want to meet that price tag. So, they look at their starting pitchers for the Giants. You'd love to have that starting pitching staff from a FIP standpoint. So, guys, that's the National League West. It's going to be really interesting. The Dodgers are really good, but like, how many more injuries can they sustain before they start having to fill? I know it's wild how many injuries they've already had. Look at the Rockies over here. Worst pitching staff, 5.10 projected FIP. Just imagine going to Colorado game in Colorado. Be prepared to sit out in the bleachers. You may get a lot of balls. Let's look at the other pitching in the American League, National League Central. Some really kind of mediocre, or I mean, these are not bad, not great pitching staffs. Reds number 10, C level pitching. Cubs B minus number 11. So you can see where they're at. Some good relievers on the Cardinals, Cubs, and Brewers. But like the Cardinals, their pitching staff, God, they're starting. I'll take the Astros starters over that. So
Mhm.
just you can see how decimated pitching is until we get to the National League East. National League East is the home of the two best pitching staffs in Major League Baseball. And I told you guys about the Phillies being really good pitching. Well, there it is. But what's wild to me is where's Chapman? Yeah, Chapman's got a 3.47 FIP. All right, that's and he was really good for the Rangers. So yeah, he's right. His FIP is right in the same range as the Astros relievers. So you got the Braves, really good pitching, top to bottom. Morton is their weakest link as far as starting pitching in that 4.22. Uh, their bullpen deep. Tyler Matzik, who's really been a good reliever over the last several years, I thought. Maybe he's had a bad year or two, but look at that. Look how deep that bullpen is for the Braves. And here's the Braves. The Braves are I think they're one of like two or three teams on the entire Major League Baseball that only has one pitcher on the injured list, and maybe that's why their FIPS their WAR is so high because they're entering the year the way you would want to enter the year, and so the Phillies have their two great starters. And Suarez and Sanchez are good, but then they're running Turnbull out every fifth day at the start. I mean, I'm sure they're counting on some of these other guys to come in and help, but they've got a deep bullpen. So there you go. There is the crux of it. The Marlins have a pretty decent the number 8, and they have obviously some strengths there, but here you got Alcantara out for the year, so the Marlins won't be as great as pitching as you might otherwise expect them to be. All right, guys, that's the one pagers. I guess one thing I didn't say is as I went through there, the players I put in red ink, I think at least I think are rookie classification. I mean, if you see a couple of those, it may not be right, but that's what I was trying to do with some of those. So if you see some errors, let me know. I'm sure there are errors and the details are there. A lot of data to pull through, but that I thought that was interesting for you guys. Let's go. So other questions from the chat. Clint, out of the thought. I'm sorry. I should have let you jump in. Pitching National League.
No,
Anything you want to say about National League pitching?
uh, not really. I think you hit on the gist of it. Obviously we talked about the Braves being great, and we need to appreciate that and embrace it. I think we kind of. I guess a lot of people will be surprised at how good the Marlins pitching staff could be, and things like that. It's still young and they're developing, so that's a really interesting thing to see. And then, I think we just come right back to the whole point of it. Is the National League going to turn into a three-horse race? And obviously, I feel like the Phillies have been on the cusp for a while. And do they make it more? Um, do they make it more of a fight in the AL East? We'll see. And then, the Dodgers just being the Dodgers, but I have my own bias and my own opinion on that. I mean, you can only be as good as the competition you beat at times. So we'll see how that plays out when it matters. I'm big on when it matters, guys. You'll hear that all the time. So if I annoy you with it, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna keep saying that and keep chiming that in.
All right, so let me give a quick plug. So you guys are still with us 1 hour in. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please come to the website, subscribe. Yeah, the Braves do look good, all right. And please subscribe to the website, become a member of the website. Um, support the YouTube channel. I'm going to be trying to do more. I know I've been pretty much off on the YouTube side during the off season, but we're gonna kick back up as the season gets going. What I
Hey,
will
are you
say also,
Larry? I mean, the Astros have been in the postseason till September, October for quite a few years in a row. It does get taxing.
yeah,
And then I just wanted to catch on RA's mention on the Tommy John and arm injuries. I mean, the evolution of baseball, I think in general, the power pitching, the need for velocity and spin, and
right,
just what they're expecting these guys to do with their arms and elbows. Because I guess the biggest thing is, when you hold an elbow's is a lever joint. It only goes up and down. So when you start to twist and contort and work against a joint that's only meant to go up and down, and you're trying to force it into three-quarter slots and up high, down low, hand in front. You're twisting contort a joint that's not made like a shoulder, which is a ball and socket joint. So you really start to change the dynamic of what that elbow is doing. And then on top of that, you apply the amount of force and the amount of speed that these guys are throwing at, consistently. Um, I think that's part of the reason why. And sorry, not to get on a tangent, but part of the reason why I think 300 win pitchers are a thing of the past. The Hall of Fame is going to have to rethink its way of how it introduces pitchers in the Hall of Fame. Long time, especially starting pitchers. But I think that's why you're going to see more and more of how do we build these hybrid guys out that can go 4 or 5 innings, and then how do we bridge that gap? And I think that's also going to allude to where the Astros can be successful if these guys get healthy, is how many arms we have. In 2022, we were spoiled with the amount of arms we had
right.
at the disposal, and how many arms could give us more than 1 inning. I mean, 3 innings, 4 innings, 5 innings. Now all of a sudden we turn into, if we're healthy at the right time, if when it matters, what that is going to do for this team in the long run, especially for a deep postseason run that we all have come to expect these days.
Yeah. So let me add to that. All right, go to the website, search for the word injury or injuries, or just do injure, and you're gonna find some Larry the GM articles where I actually describe the dynamic that, or the numerical basis for that. Clint gave you the science behind it, and I'm giving you some statistics behind why Clint and I talk about, like, pitcher injuries are a lot has to do with the fact that Major League Baseball has increased the amount of sliders that have been thrown for the last 20 years, and you can actually see the injury scale almost models exactly what the amount of sliders that are being thrown in the Major League Baseball. Now, I don't know how you tell tell pitchers to stop throwing sliders, but that's, and we're not only throwing in those sliders, but we're throwing those sliders harder than we've ever had. And that's where the real worry comes in. And when we were throwing sliders in the 70s, maybe 70 miles per hour, that wasn't such a bad thing. But now we're throwing sliders in the mid 90s. Um, and it's asking the human body to do something it can't do.
Yeah, when your
So
fastball is 95 and your slider's 90, it's a huge difference on the wear and tear. But I think that also alluded what kind of want to go back is, Greg Maddux, one of my favorite pitchers and one of the best pitchers of all time. Never threw above 90, made everything move, but I think he had numerous complete games where he threw under 90 pitches. And hitters are getting smarter at the plate. And the data, the analytics say, see more pitches, work more counts. Well, the only way for pitchers to combat that is throw more challenging pitches and more deceitful pitches. Well, how do I make it more deceitful? Well, if I throw a 95-mile-an-hour fastball, I need something that looks similar. I can't come back with an 80-mile-an-hour slider. There's too big of a difference. There's just a lot of there's just so much that can go into that before we get off
and
on a
that's
huge baseball
yeah,
tangent. Yeah.
And then McCullers is kind of the poster boy for that, right?
Yeah.
And he was better off when he was throwing more curveballs that were slower and less sliders. That's a whole tangent. Clint and I can go back and forth on that, and 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 all of it will be against the conventional wisdom, which is like, it's all about the pitch clock and all that. And I don't disagree that the pitch clock has an effect, but it has an effect because we keep throwing so many dang sliders and such a velocity. But okay, guys. So what I want to do now is for folks that haven't said anything all night, like get your predictions in on the chat. Clint and I are going to give our predictions. But it's the night before opening night, and again, please subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the site. If you really want this work to continue, right? Please become a paying member, join the premium content. I'm going to work really hard to make the premium content something that's going to be you're going to be pleased in. And I will say the money maker content I'm going to be giving you, the money makers, daily best bets that you could be used on what's it called? The daily fantasy. You could use
DraftKings.
that DraftKings, and those
Yeah.
the numbers I'm gonna give you guys are gonna give you for the Astros game that day, the kind of things you could be using on DraftKings. So yeah, I just I'm gonna be the numbers that I've been doing. I've been working towards these things for a couple years now. I know the numbers that I'm going to be putting out there are going to lead to success for those that want to use them. Now, you know, you, try it for a couple months and try the money makers for a couple months, and if it doesn't pay off, then cancel it. But if you're making money for it, then tell your friends and come make more money with the money maker content. All right, so that's my plugs, and I'm sticking to it. And it's now on the precipice of opening day. Clint, what is your? We said that the WAR modeling that I've used for my protected records says 89.5 for the Astros. What is Clint the Scout's record?
So
For
I'm
the
gonna go.
Astros?
Um, I'm going with 94 wins, 68 losses.
Okay,
All
now
right.
everybody, I want to jump in right now.
We're gonna have even numbers.
Last year at this time, Clint the Scout shocked the world by projecting 87 wins for your Astros. Am I right about that, Clint? It was 87, right?
It was 87. I think 87 or 89. It was below
No, I think it
90.
was
Below,
87. It was
I think it was
87.
87. I think it was 87, 75. Yeah.
And I was like, Clint, I've been getting hammered all off season saying 92, and you're coming to the Loaded GM opening day show and you're predicting 87 wins. Now he just flipped the switch on everybody and he's predicting 94 wins.
Yep. So
Wow.
there's some reasoning behind that. Um, I think the first one that comes to mind is we're gonna be better at catcher. So we're gonna be reaping the benefit of putting better talent on the field in that position alone. Number two, I think Joe Espada's in a really good spot to manage this team much more effectively than Dusty Baker was. Um, and I think that's going to reap rewards. Now, my biggest concern is not necessarily the quality of pitching, it's going to be the timing of the quality of pitching. And whether we can get these guys right and get them healthy and working, working within, working well together throughout the season. I would expect, and I'm kind of thinking this. I guess I'll go a little further. I don't think the Astros are leading the AL West going into the All Star break, but I think they win the division by 3 games.
Yeah, I can see something similar. I expect April's going to be kind of rough on us Astros fans. I
Yeah.
just full disclosure, guys. This team's and you guys saw it. You saw the relative injuries. The Astros have 7 injured pitchers. Some of those are really important ones. I got the Astros winning 90. I want to be better. I want to say more than that, but I've been pretty dogmatic at staying with what my modeling says. So I'm gonna stay right with the model and go 90 wins this year. I too believe the Astros are going to win the division. I think the Astros are going to win the division by 5 games because I know that last year I was the don't disrespect the Rangers guys, and this year I'm kind of like, I'm probably more worried about the Mariners than I am the Rangers, to be honest with you. But that's kind of where I'm at. What do you think about the rest of the division, Clint?
Actually, I'm actually really intrigued. I think the Athletics are going to be kind of interesting. Um, I think I think there is a little bit to be said about being a little young and naive, and that team might turn around and be that way and outperform what's projected. Um, I personally, from my perspective, I think the Rangers are in for a rough season. Maybe not so much on the record standpoint. I think they'll still, perform well and go above 500 and do all that. But I think they're going to run into some things of having some guys who really popped off that aren't going to be the same guys in 2024. When you think about it, they had a lot of guys that we really didn't see or really didn't pick up on outperform, and I don't know if that's sustainable for them. Now I think their big dogs will eat. I mean, I think Seager's going to be good and Simeon will be good and things like that. But I just think that that pitching staff kind of outpitched itself last year in a lot of
Yeah,
ways. So they're
yeah.
going to get they're gonna become more of who they really are in 2024. But that doesn't the Astros are not in a position to discount anybody. I mean, they can easily get snuck up on and get beat by somebody at any time. But I love pedigree, and that's why I think this Astros team is just set for success again.
All right, so RA jumps in with Juan Soto winning the MVP. That's a very reasonable expectation. Lefty in that lineup. Harry, that's fine. I'm glad you're here. Uh, Harry, go to the website. Check out these one pagers on the website. You're going to be able to see where I've got the entire rosters for all the teams. Obviously, those things may change within the next few days as they actually get up and going. But I'll probably update them a couple weeks into the season, depending on how many things I'm seeing. But the Astros, I have. You see the bullpen. I have the Hader, Presley, Abreu, Montero, Sousa, Martinez, Parker, Machinsky, and Belak. Now, did Sousa make the team, or that I pulled that? Well, my methodology is to pull directly from roster resource. So I guess Harry, the answer to your question, I think would be Sousa. I'm expecting is going to be on the team. Sousa, Martinez, Machinsky, and Belak will be the back end of the bullpen as far as where I think the Astros are headed. I have built into my expectations Verlander being back on May 1st, but that may be a little optimistic. All right, Clint, your postseason projection for the Astros. I have them losing the ALCS. I'm consistent. That's what I said last year. That's what I say this year. And it's like, well, wait a minute, Larry, you said they're the best team in the American League. Well, I think it's going to be a dogfight. I think the playoffs could come down to basically the Yankees and the Astros and who's hot then, and the Baltimore, several of the other teams that are at that next tier in the American League could get hot. I just think the Astros may. I just have them losing in the LCS. I don't think there's any shame in that. What do you have, Clint?
I think the Astros after last season, the way it ended, and I think with the timing of Alex Bregman seeking a contract, I think the change in the managerial spot, I really do believe the Astros go to the World Series this year. I really
Wow.
do see that. I continue to lean on how good are you when it matters and the pedigree that this team has. And I believe that they have everything that it takes to win the whole thing, but I think really the only thing that's going to get in their way is themselves, and injuries. And so obviously one of those is kind of controllable, the other one's not. But I'm not going to discount this team in an instant. I think they go to the World Series. I don't know. Um, in my opinion, if I had to pick a World Series result, I would love to see the way I would see it is I think the Astros could potentially face the Phillies again in a rematch. And I
And
lean on the Phillies only because I think that there's something a little bit different about that roster compared to other ones, not so much in what it does statistically, but what it does in moments. And I think that they have some big names that would be willing to put these guys on their backs. And I think they've got two really big starting pitchers that have proven to be really tough in big moments too. And it just seems like a really good fit for me. But I'm gonna be biased. I'm just gonna be the optimist. Say the Astros can win the World Series, and that's just how this is gonna be. And I don't live in a world differently than that right now. You can ask my brother. You can ask my family. Every time they ask me, I said, "Well, why not?" It's never why the Astros. It's why not the Astros. Tell me why it
why
should.
not
Why?
them? I mean, they literally, I showed the numbers. They have the best WAR of any
Yeah,
team in the American League, right? And once they get there, it's all about who's hot. And so
and I would
there's
love.
no reason not to predict them. Yeah,
I'm
I
sorry, and
just
I'd
don't.
love, like Harry said, I'd love to see if they take on the Braves. I'd love to see them beat them and write that disappointment from 2021.
Right.
Then you get a real, juggernaut type fest, and we're gonna put the two best teams up against each other, and we're gonna slug it out, and that's gonna be, I guess that's kind of an old school National League. Um, I don't know if you would have called it a rivalry per se, but there was a little bit of
Yeah.
something there every now and then when Big Brother's always beating up on you. It might be a good change of the guard there too.
So RA, you talked about MVP, and we kind of mentioned that. I I uh I wrote an article based on the This is a moneymaker article where I gave folks odds of who in both leagues were best bets to win the MVP. I'll leave it at that. I will tell you guys this, and I don't think Alex Bregman is actually one of the best bets to win MVP, but by my system, he was the best long shot to win the MVP. And so just get it in the video. Larry Jam told you that Alex Bregman, in other words, the payout related to Alex Bregman versus what my model projected his percentage of vote total would say that Alex Bregman is the best long shot. Now, I don't think he's going to win the MVP, but that just tells you how good of a year he really may have relative to expectations that we have. All right, so let's talk about who we think the Astros batting MVP is. Clint, I'll let you go first. Who do you think who carries the Astros?
Well,
Batting.
it's not fair because I wrote down a total, like a team MVP,
Mm-hmm.
and then I wrote down an offensive MVP and then a pitching MVP.
That's fine. Just put all three of them out there. I'm good.
Now I have to pick. So my team MVP is leaning on what Alex Bregman is facing this season. I think that there's a chip on his shoulder. And I'm not one of those people that believes that he's one of the type of players to take it lightly.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that he has a lot to prove, and he doesn't seem like the type of person who wants to prove it to other people, more so prove it to himself. And if he's in that frame of mind, I think we can see 2018 Alex Bregman.
Yeah.
That's how good he is, and I don't think he wants people to forget that. And plus, there's quite a bit of money on the line too. I mean, there's no doubt.
Right.
So he's got all his incentive there. My batting MVP, or my offensive MVP, is actually, I project that Yonder Diaz is going to be a huge offensive weapon for this team this season. I think I'm doubling down on everything I like about Yonder Diaz from an offensive perspective.
The
And
LarryTheGM.com place has been the home of the cheerleading for Yadier Diaz for 18 months.
and I don't think it. I don't. I don't know if really in for a sophomore slump because I don't even think he ever had a freshman year.
Okay.
He played so little that it felt like it was it was a part time job at that point. But there's something about bat speed and there's something about natural movement that Yiner has at the plate, and I just with Pena, we talked about Pena a lot, and we saw great performance his rookie season, backed up by a very rough sophomore season, second season. But there was not as much natural ability in Pena's offensive approach as there is in Yiner Diaz's. And I think I just there's something about him as a hitter that I just think he's gonna be able to pop off and he's gonna hit the baseball and he can square it up pretty solidly across all parts of the field, and I really like it, and that's where I'm gonna stick with it.
Well, one of the things I'll say about Yainer Diaz is he's having a pseudo lefty in this lineup. If you bat him 6 behind Abreu and in front of McCormick, there's gonna be a tendency yeah, whatever. So yeah, we have the lefty killer Altuve up. We got Alvarez and Tucker who both do well against lefties and murder righties. And you got Bregman who murders lefties and is not great against righties. You know, Bray, who's historically demolished lefties and been serviceable against righties. And then you've got Yainer Diaz has got this reverse split where he's I'm now his expected stats, and I'm about to murder people with expected stats in the next 48 hours. Um, Yainer Diaz expected stats versus the lefties were way better than his actual stats, but he was just devastating versus righties. So he's almost like having a pseudo lefty come up. So we don't
Yeah,
have a lefty in that part of the lineup, but we got Yainer Diaz who acts like a lefty, and then you got Chas McCormick who then it basically platoons back and it destroys lefties, and it's not been historically all that great against righties. And but Pena and Myers who are better against lefties. So basically, Yainer Diaz sits in the middle of all these lefty killers in the bottom of the lineup, and if they keep the righty in, he could play a key role in driving in the runs and cleaning up the bases. Like if there's people on base and they get past Abreu and they keep the righty in because Yainer Diaz is right-handed, he might just make them pay really badly. So yeah, I loved it. I love the pick. I went really chalky. I said Jordan Alvarez. I just I like when it comes to offense, I'm just gonna say I'm not gonna overthink it. The answer is Jordan Alvarez, and Jordan
yeah.
Alvarez, Jordan Alvarez is one of those that's I was betting on him to be the MVP last year, right? So he's on the higher scale of the odds of players that could win the MVP. All right, my pitching MVP, and kind of previewed as we went through, is Hunter Brown. And Hunter Brown, by all these metrics, and I'll show you why tomorrow for the premium members. Hunter Brown's stats, his expected stats, and what the the projection models are seeing is that Hunter Brown is going to be really, really good this year, and like probably the second best starting pitch. Well, I don't know that we know what Framber Valdez is. He could be the Hunter Brown could be the best starting pitcher, but if if Framber's not right, but Hunter Brown is basically the number 2 starter on the staff, and I just think you might think violently disagree with that statement, but get back to me in July, and get back to me in July, folks, and before you get angry with me for saying Hunter Brown is a number 2 starter on the staff, and I even include Verlander in that statement. So that's where I'm at. Who you have for your pitching MVP, Clint?
My pitching MVP is Brian Abreu. So there's the logic behind that and the approach I take is being as deep as we are in that bullpen is going to open up opportunities for certain guys to be used maybe a little earlier than normal or be used in situations. But I think that Abreu has just proven to be one of the most. He's got a devastating slider and a great fastball to go with it. And I think he's proven to be that guy that can take on those high leverage situations and face it. And I think in the terms of the entire season, we're going to see so many clutch moments and so many great outings. And I know they're only 3 outs at a time, but I think he's just going to be the one that just continues to hold that together between starters and obviously getting down to those closers like Presley and Hayter. It's kind of an unsung hero type thing where we may not appreciate it as much when we're watching it, but we may see it more at the end of the season. Like, wow, I didn't quite realize how valuable he
Yeah.
rang in the bullpen.
Yeah, I just hope that I hope he's been trying things in spring training, and that's been some of the issues with the blowups and
Yeah,
that I don't want to read too much into spring training, especially with
no,
him, and I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to read too much into spring training with my surprise player. My surprise player for the Astros is Ronel Blanco, and I just think Ronel Blanco is staged. I think most people think Ronel Blanco is younger than he is. He's 30 years old, and I, he I, he's this is really his year. I mean, this is like, yo, Ronell, let's go, let's make it all happen. Now, the projected stats don't have him near as well as I'm hoping he really is this year, but he's been great in spring training, but he's been great in the previous spring training. So, like, I don't know what exactly we're gonna get from Ronel Blanco, but I think it's really a lot of the story of the early part of this season and the Astros success may come down to Ronel Blanco and JP France in the backside of that bullpen, at least giving them serviceable innings and stay, keep them in the game. If they lead the game and it's the other team scored 3 or 4 runs, I think the Astros can go to war with that every time with this offense. So uh, my surprise player is Ronel Blanco. It looks like Harry is saying Pena might be his. And thoughts on France? I'll be transparent. I'm worried about JP France, and I guess really what comes down to with JP France is he entered the league as a really good pitcher that kind of tricked competition in getting out by having 5 above average pitches, but none of those pitches, I guess Clint would be considered by the scouts to be plus stuff, right? They're all like, hey, I don't even know if they would call any of them plus pitches, right? They're all
yeah,
like okay, above average, and so can France continue to work that magic with those pitches? I mean, I will say this: I don't remember the numbers exactly, but I believe he was pitching when he pitched to Diaz last year. It was a lot better than when it looked like he was pitching to Maldi, and Maldi was forcing him to do things that maybe he didn't have conviction when he was throwing the pitch. I don't know,
yeah.
but
And I
but
think that speaks to, managerial approach as well. Like, we've seen it time and time again. We've wrote several articles on how do you fix this pitcher and how do you use this guy, and it's like, Joe Espada and that staff, I'm sure, are going to lean into his strengths in every situation. And
right,
and and I also thought a little bit of the surprise that we had from him last year is he spent a whole season in AAA with the pitch clock prior
yeah.
to the development of that in major league level. So when he walked up, not much changed, besides obviously the atmosphere and the situation, but the pitch clock and everything was still in his favor. So he had built a pretty good foundation on pitching in that condition, much more than the other starters did, and that might have been a detriment to Fromber and a few other guys when it really mattered.
So who's your surprise player, Clint?
Okay, so I kind of went back and forth on this. Since I'm gonna switch it up because I have a hard time because I guess the best rookie is we're looking for a guy who's actually going to come up and be, I guess, on the roster and play. So the guy that I have, but I think I mentioned the name to you earlier, and I think Gray Kessinger might be facing a bit of a problem with him is Zach DeZenzo. I think that there's a little bit of a I think he's the type of guy who could start the season off early. If it gets called up, has some good success, they could end up saying, we're going to keep him here because we have a lot more upside than we do with Gray Kessinger. And that's strictly, for me, that's strictly just from an eye test. I'm
Right.
not speaking to data. I'm not speaking to anything like that. I just think that we know less of what DeZenzo is, and that leads intrigue and want to put him out there more so than we. I feel like we kind of already know who Greg Kessinger is, and we know what we're going to expect from him. But I'm always one of the you got to shoot for upside, and I think there's more upside in that situation. So he would be my surprise player that kind of comes up and shocks everybody by taking one of those spots and holding on to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can make the same sort of argument for Loperfino too. I mean,
Yep.
I think both of those guys spend, 6 weeks in
Yeah.
the minors, and, whichever of those guys is on fire the most, I could see getting the call up and replacing whoever on the bench. I mean, it's not gonna be Devon, but if or and it's not gonna be Caratini. So, if Singleton or Julk starts out slow, I could see one of those guys coming in and replacing either one of those guys. That's why I think they said they're gonna work Loperfino at first base. I
Mhm.
mean, they're like, "Okay, Don Singleton, this is it, it's now or never." And Corey Jokes, if you're not with it, we can bring Loperfido in the outfield there, and so I kind of feel the same way about that.
Just didn't think that
DeCenzo could be
I
coming
just
in at
didn't think
third base.
like Loperfido coming up would surprise a lot of folks. Um,
No, I know. I mean, I've
yeah,
been I've been beating on all winter long, like, Larry, why aren't you pumping up Loperfido? I mean, I he could do it, right? You guys, I
yeah.
just want to see give me 6 weeks or 2 months of performance at AAA because I haven't had that yet, right? And so
Mhm.
that's kind of what I want to see by it. My surprise player, well, Ronel Blanco. My best rookie is Spencer Getty. Um, just because when I look through the WAR tables, the truth is, guys, no classic rookie for the Astros really should have a major impact. Now, you could argue that any of the names we just named could, but Spencer Arrighetti is probably. I mean, I guess I'll say this: I think there's less chance that any of the batters are going to need to be pulled out of the lineup than some of the Belak or France or any of the some of the other pitchers. I can see that we need to bring Spencer Arrighetti up and have him start because either it's injury or it's lack of performance, right? And so that's my thought. That's why it's more like, well, I think Arrighetti probably has the best chance of making an impact of all the rookies, just
Yep.
because I think the pitching situation early this season is more problematic than anything else.
Yeah. That would be my pick for best rookie also. I just think the door is open for him, and I think there's just more opportunity, more ways for him to end up on the roster and to make an impact. Because we all have seen it in the past. I mean, JP France was a good example last year. When we needed an arm, we found one and we pushed him, and I think Arrighetti's just in that situation it's upside and it's readiness and things like that, and I think he's checking all those boxes, and it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I mean, and the chat's coming up with some other alternatives. What about Pedro Leon? Pedro Leon needs to stop striking out so much. And I mean, I actually wonder, is Leon going to get behind some of the other guys in the outfield? Is he a trade chip that the Astros use at the trade deadline to get one of the pitchers that they probably are going to trade for? That's my thoughts. Harry, I wrote a few articles about Jake Myers this summer or this off season. Please go check those out. Basically, I'll give you cliff notes. I think Jake Myers is going to be a 90 to 95 WRC plus hitter. Let me throw one random fact that I have shared and I've tweeted about. On June 10th, Jake Myers had the second most WAR of any Astros position player. Just let that sink in. That's because he was playing almost every day early on in the season, and he was doing really well. About that time, some other players came back. I guess that's about the time Altuve was in the lineup every day. Therefore, Duvall and that start playing more in the outfield. Jake Myers' time got pulled back. He slumped. He slumped even worse, and then he got his playing time cut. So Jake Myers started off the season very very well. I think he was in the mid 105 to 109. I don't remember exactly what it was WRC plus in early June, and he was doing really well. And I know that Astro fans have had a love hate relationship with Jake Myers. And guys, Jake Myers most of the time in the last 2 seasons, Jake Myers has been playing in suboptimal physical conditions. Last year, I think he was healthy, but I think last year. The other thing I'll say, Jake Myers seems to be the kind of player that needs to play every day, or he gets out of his groove. And and so when the Astros talk about playing him, 70-80% of the time in center field, he's a great fielding outfielder. And if Jake Myers is that 90 to 95 WRC plus player, he's actually going to give them about 2 WAR. And there's no shame in your number 9 hitter in your lineup giving you 2 WAR because he's so good defensively. And so that's kind of where I'm at with Jake Myers. Clint, I know you agree with, I know you're aligned with me on most of that, at least with Jake Myers.
I am. He's just it just feels like year over year he's never really gotten his. I guess you would say he gets his feet wet, but he doesn't ever stay in the pool long enough to really um, find a groove. And I think there has to be things said because we've seen a lot of pop, not necessarily pop. What I mean is he's popped on the TV. We've seen him perform well. We've seen him do things. It's just, is he going to get the opportunity to do it every day? And I think you're right. A lot of these guys do well when they're in that vibe and like their routine is the same and they know what they're preparing for and they know what to expect. And um, I just don't think we should I think we should discount what we've seen in the past just because of the circumstances and everything that's kind of come with it, and the injury. I think, especially being a shoulder injury, we saw what a shoulder injury can do to a Hall of Fame caliber player like Michael Brantley. It can be very
Right.
debilitating and really hinder what you can do at the plate because you're extending through impact. You're absorbing that impact when bat meets ball. You're twisting. You're releasing the I say releasing the club head, releasing the barrel down the path through the ball and stuff like that. All that stuff works up the hands, through the arms, into the shoulder. Like it's a big kinetic chain that can have an impact. So um, maybe this is the point where peak age, peak health, and it all starts to really come together and gel for Jake Myers to have a really good season.
Okay, guys. So I know we are really long, but I
Yeah.
hope you guys have felt like you've gotten a lot of meat on the bones for your Astros content tonight. Um, I'll give you guys in the chat a 5-minute warning if you want to get your predictions in. Um, please do so. If you want any final questions about the Astros season, please bring those as well. Guys, as you've heard from Clint and I, we both are pretty positive about the season. Obviously, this is not the 2019 Astros. Okay, let's be clear what we're really saying. This is a very good team, somewhere between upper 80s to mid 90s win team. I think they're playing in a division where that could be good. That should be good enough to win the division. I think that the team will be better in September than they are in April, assuming that they don't have catastrophic injuries. I mean, they're starting the season with some catastrophic injuries. So, if you can get 2 or 3 of those major starting pitchers back, and performing, they're going to be better in September than they are now.
Yeah.
Um, and I just think overall the team is I've been kind of shocked at some of the tone of the Astros Twitter and over off-season Astros social media. Guys, I really I'm feeling pretty good about this team, mainly because I'm not I'm not approaching them like, are they going to repeat and win the World Series? They might. I think the realities of it is there's two teams in the National League that are both better than the Astros and deeper and can sustain more. I mean, the Dodgers are sustaining massive injuries at pitching and still look to be one of the strongest teams in major leagues. So, will do I Clint thinks they're going to win the World Series, folks. I think they're going to lose the ALCS. Somewhere in that range is it's a pretty darn good season. If we go back to the ALCS again, consider yourself a spoiled baseball fan that your team there's children in this city that don't know anything other than the Astros going to the ALCS, and so it's kind of crazy. So last call for questions. Clint, you filibuster a couple minutes and see if there's any questions that come in, but you give your final thoughts, please.
You, I, my biggest thought is we don't take for granted how great this run has been, and enjoy the moment of every moment that comes with 2024. I think it's going to be full of excitement, ups and downs. But guys, this Astros organization has just been. I know it hasn't looked like the Dodgers rosters and it hasn't looked like the Braves rosters, but it's it it it's been the pinnacle of Major League Baseball, in my opinion, to do what they've done year over year, losing the talent and losing the star power that they have, and then continuing to find their way back into ALCSs nonstop, and then obviously winning another title and being in contention. And I I enjoy when great baseball teams are kind of pushed to the side, and I feel like the media kind of left them alone this time. And I just think that they've got something that they want to prove, and I don't think and personally, I think the Rangers kind of stirred that up for them too. Um, I think they want to prove something in that regard, but we might get the peak of a lot of we might get the culmination of a lot of peaking times for guys like Bregman and Alvarez. We might get the best of them in this season, and that might be a really tough thing for anybody to take on.
Correct. All right, guys. With that, we'll close it out. I do want to ask one final time: if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please take care of that. Please like the video on the YouTube side. Please join the Larry the GM website. Please become a premium member of the website, or even better, a moneymaker member of the site. I know I'm asking for some financial support, but I think I will deliver content that you're not going to get in a lot of other places. Please help the site.
And the
If
only
you
other
don't want
thing
to do
I'd
it,
say, Larry, just real quick, if you want more videos, if you want us to do more of this, and obviously Larry and I can work together and tweak the delivery, the time, and how we do it, reach out to us, tell us, give us that
right.
feedback, because that feedback lets us know, hey, are the people who support us, the people who really like this, really like listening to us and wanting us to talk more, and give us the opportunity to work on that and give that to you as well. Like I said, I'm obviously a lot more quiet than Larry is, but in the event we are getting the feedback, hey, we want to hear this, we want you to talk about this, let's get into it. Just find us on Twitter, tag us, do something that lets us know, because I do enjoy doing these things. But Larry and I do things very, very big and encompass. So maybe we can kind of work on um, shorter bits and kind of work on work our magic to get things to where you guys are getting a lot more of us from the talking, the vantage point, and the YouTube a lot more often. I think that'd be a lot of fun for us also, Larry.
Yeah, I mean, let me just finish out my thought. If you don't want to join on the Larry Jam website, there's options to support the channel, and most of the articles have links to how you can support on PayPal one-time gift. I'd appreciate that, guys. Any support I'd appreciate. And then Patreon is probably the other ultra premium way to get access to every almost every article goes to Patreon first. Now sometimes it's minutes before I'm getting the article out on Larry Jim. Sometimes it's a day or two before, and the Patreon people that support my work are the ones that I'm going to listen to the most. And if you want to help, you want guide me, or you feel like you're part of the channel, then please step up and help me make do the work, because it's not easy. I mean, that I'm doing, like, guys, I spent a lot of time on this website, okay, and putting together the tables and information I put. You may think, Larry, it's a waste of time, and I do sometimes wonder that, but that I just would say, if you want more output, or you want different outputs, then please show the support that'll make that possible. Okay, guys, I don't want to come off too strong, but that's the realities of it. I'm going to do what I can do, and then if you want to, if you want to support that, that'll probably help us do more videos and stuff like that. All right, guys, that's where I'm at. That's thanks for joining. I know it's been a long one, but hopefully you guys got something out of it. And if you want, jump back and check out all the one pagers. You'll see the data that we look through, and maybe you'll even come up with more questions. Leave comments on the website, comments on social media, and we'll work through those together. All right, thanks, guys, and have a good night. Bye bye. Where is my